Welcome to the Cruise Retreat podcast. My name is Rita M. Perez, and I'm a triple certified travel advisor. But more importantly, I coordinate all the logistics to bring your online community offline through world travel. If you've been yearning to put together a group trip, but overwhelmed with all the details that come with planning, I and this podcast are here to help. Ready to transform lives on the open waters of the world? Let's get started. Oh, hello everyone. Happy Tuesday. Wanted to come at you hopefully real quick. I always say that and then I go way longer than what I thought I was. So fingers crossed that I stay on topic because I even have a little sticky note to help me today. But today's topic is how do retreats on cruise ships actually help you save money instead of send money? And I know that sounds pretty counterintuitive in a sense because you are trying to make money with your retreat on a cruise ship. But on top of making money, you want to make sure that you can reduce as many expenses as possible so you can make even more money. And I'm specifically talking to my business owners, coaches, entrepreneurs who want to be bringing their communities, their clientele on board with them. This can be just a group trip, or this can be, I'm going to be teaching you something on board that goes a little bit further into the teachings that you've already learned through my online trainings, a course, or anything like that. And so the first way that it saves you money is that it can actually cover your travel expenses. And there's a whole lot that I can go into this, but depending on how many people you bring with you on board, and depending which cruise line you sail with and what their incentives are, we might be able to get you for a very, very reduced cost on that cruise ship. And that is an incredible expense because you don't have to shell out some money for your own travel expenses, which is going to be huge. Usually, so the cruise, like you won't have to worry about spending too much money, but the only other expenses that I would plan on counting on are like your hotel, any transfers, any sort of souvenirs and shopping that you would like to do. Those are the things that I would count on, especially if you have certain minimums met where you can cruise/travel a little bit reduced compared to the other people who will be traveling with you. And then everything else I'm about to tell you is all included, meaning that you don't have to raise your budget. You don't have to raise your registration fee because this is all included in the cruise fare that your attendees will be paying for when they pay for their cruise. And so that is meeting space, entertainment, and food. And these are all like basic expenses that are included. So your meeting space, while you may have to pay extra, like you have to pay for the hotel, you might have to pay for the conference center, you might have to pay for the meeting room, the AV and all that. There's virtually no expenses with that on board when you are on a cruise ship because the meeting space is already there. They don't have to rent it out because they're already utilizing those spaces for different activities on board. Now, where you might have some expenses would be if you wanted to have or needed to have a tech assisting you, like with audio needs, visual needs, like sound and lighting. But other than that, if you were just like running a PowerPoint or just needing a microphone to project your voice, that really is included. So that is a huge winner and a huge cost saver on your budget. Then entertainment. We all know when we're planning retreats, usually there's an educational component. When we're planning group trips, anything outside of like the travel expenses, you have to add that on, right? Well, not necessarily when you are retreating or having a group trip on a cruise ship, because again, that is part of the cruise fare. So these Broadway and Broadway style shows that some of the larger lines have, that's included. That could be like hundreds of dollars that you're saving your attendees to have an incredible experience, and they don't have to shell any extra money out because it's included with the cost of their cruise fare. Other things include activities. So, and activities could be very minimally they might have a cost, but they are very minimal compared to what you might have. Again, if you just went to a winery and you had to scratch that cost out. And depending on which cruise line you also sail with, winery tastings are included. And that's why I say, like, there's so many different options to be cruising and to be utilizing for your group trips and your retreats, that if you're thinking the standard, like the Walmarts of the cruise ship industry, that is just the beginning. That's where we all begin, right? Kind of like when we are going into adulthood, we all have to start at the Walmart. And then we graduate to like the Target and the Kohl's and the JCPenney and then the Macy's and then the Tiffany's of all brands. Cruise lines are just like that. So don't think you're like, oh, you're talking to me about cruise ships, but I think it's just going to be like this cheapy thing. It is definitely not just a cheapy thing. Can it be? Yes, it can be, but there are other incredible lines that will give fabulous experiences to you and your attendees, and they can be included depending on the line you choose. And then last but not least, your food. And food not only is super important because we have to sustain our people while they're at our retreat or our group trip, but it is the probably most expensive expense that you have budgeting for your next retreat or group trip, because there's a lot of things that happen. Like you have to have market value of food, then you have to have the people that are cooking it, then you have to factor in the cost of the people that are serving it, and then cleaning up in the space. There's so many expenses that are built into that price, but yet again, it's already in the cost of your cruise fare. So you don't have to shell out any extra money unless you do want to do something a little bit special, or unless you want to, depending on the cruise line, partake in a special dining opportunity. Because again, not all cruise lines are made equally. Most of your food is going to be included. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, snacks in between. And I say drinks like basic drinks, which again, depending on everything is dependent on the cruise line that you choose. But for the most part, retreating or planning a group trip on a cruise ship is much more cost effective than on land, because one, there's special travel perks that you can take part in. And then your meeting space, your entertainment, and your food is more than likely included in the cost of your retreat or group trip on that cruise ship. So let me know, what questions did you have? What kind of eye-openers? What didn't you think? What was pretty new to you? Because I know, especially when I tell people that there's so many things included in the cost of the cruise fare, they're like, this might be a winner for me to start planning group trips on cruise ships instead of through land. There are pluses and minuses through everything, but you know, I love the fact that I only have to unpack once on a cruise ship as opposed to multiple times if I'm traveling via land. So I hope that this has helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Rita@ritaventures.net, and I will see you next time on more retreat planning tips. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me on the Cruise Retreat Podcast. Please subscribe and leave the show a rating so more team and community leaders like yourself can get access to these episodes. See you next week.